This happened a couple of years ago, right before school ended, on the very last day of 8th grade. It was one of those strange days that felt both exciting and sad at the same time. Like standing in a doorway between two versions of your life. The hallways were packed wall to wall with students, overflowing with noise and motion. Lockers were left open, backpacks dragged across the floor, and voices echoed endlessly as people rushed from classroom to classroom. Everyone was laughing too loudly, hugging too tightly, writing messages they thought they'd never forget. Teachers tried to maintain order, but it was pointless. With more than 1,000 students moving freely, no one was really watching anything closely anymore. At the time, it felt harmless, nostalgic, chaotic in a way that felt almost beautiful. No one realized that the lack of control that day would matter more than anyone could have imagined. To deal with the madness, teachers decided to collect our yearbooks and pass them between classrooms so students could sign them during class. On the surface, it sounded organized. In reality, it meant that once your yearbook left your hands, it could be opened by anyone. Anyone could write anything, and no one was paying close enough attention to stop it. When I finally got my yearbook, back at the end of the day, I was exhausted but excited. I went home, sat on my bed, and slowly flipped through the pages. Most of the messages were exactly what I expected: jokes that only made sense to us, hearts around names, promises to stay in touch forever. Each page felt familiar and safe, like proof that middle school had meant something. Then I turned a page and stopped. There was a signature I didn't recognize. The handwriting was neat, careful, almost formal compared to the messy scrawls. Around it, under my photo, was a name I had never seen before: Samuel Robinson III. I stared at it, trying to force my memory to cooperate. I studied the face next to the name, searching for any hint of recognition, but nothing came. It's no memory. No voice, no feeling. Just a stranger's name in my yearbook. Then I noticed the message written beneath it. Hags, I'll be seeing you again. My stomach tightened instantly. It didn't feel like a joke. It didn't feel friendly or careless like most of the other messages. It felt deliberate, personal, like it was written by someone who expected me to understand it. I tried to rationalize. Maybe he signed the wrong book. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe I had simply forgotten someone I barely knew. After a while, I convinced myself it wasn't worth worrying about. I closed the yearbook, shoved it into my backpack, and tried to forget about it. That night, everything felt normal again. I was hosting a sleepover in my basement with my friends Kevin, David, and Kieran. Faye's basement was 3 floors below my parents' bedroom, which made us feel completely free. We were loud and reckless, yelling at each other over Call of Duty, throwing empty snack wrappers across the room, laughing until our throats hurt. Time stopped meaning anything. Around 2 in the morning, we got bored and started messing around on my dad's rowing machine, daring each other to go faster, louder, harder. Then there was a knock. The sound cut through the basement instantly. Sharp, deliberate. Not the casual knock of someone already inside the house. And not the front door either. It came from the storm door. We all froze. The knock came again, slow and controlled. Whoever it was didn't sound confused. They didn't sound impatient. They sounded like they knew exactly where they were. Before I could say anything, Kieran shouted, "Who is it?" The moment the words left his mouth, my stomach dropped. He had just told whoever was outside that we were awake, that we were listening. After a long pause, a voice answered. Cheerful, almost friendly. "Hey, Can you come around to the back door? Every instinct in my body screamed that something was wrong. I didn't want to go, but my friends were excited, treating it like an adventure, like a joke. They pressured me until I finally agreed, even though my hands were shaking. We crept upstairs as quietly as possible, each step feeling heavier than the last. When we reached the back door, I leaned forward and peered through the narrow glass pane. A figure stood under the porch light. As his face came into view, my heart nearly stopped. It was him. Samuel Robinson III was standing outside my house, smiling like we were old friends. He looked exactly like the photo in the yearbook. Same eyes, same expression, except now he was real, breathing, standing just inches away from me. My friends reached for the door handle, but I stopped them and told them everything's a strange message, the unfamiliar name, the signature that didn't belong. Samuel could see us whispering. He gestured for me to come closer to the window. I cracked it open just enough to speak. "So you got my message," he said, smiling. He told me he'd been watching me for a long time, that we could have been good friends. His voice was calm, almost gentle, but his eyes never stopped moving. I asked him the only question that mattered, how he knew where I lived. He didn't answer. The silence stretched uncomfortably. Then David snapped and called him a creepy stalker. The smile vanished instantly. Samuel exploded. He screamed insults, threatened us, shouted personal details about my life that no stranger should have known. Then he lunged for the window, clawing at it like an animal. I slammed it shut and locked it just in time. He began pounding on the glass, hard enough that I thought it would shatter. The noise finally woke my parents. As soon as Samuel realized adults were coming, he ran into the darkness. My dad chased after him but came back empty-handed. For reasons I still don't understand, the police were never called. The next morning, the school explained everything. Samuel had been expelled weeks earlier. He wasn't supposed to be in the building at all. His photo was still in the yearbook because it had already been printed. That meant he had snuck into the school on the last day just to write that message. No one could find him. No one could locate his family. It was as if he had never existed. Years later, another night nearly killed me. It was senior year, the last day of school, and we were celebrating near the campus clock tower. We were drunk, careless, surrounded by hundreds of students. Lomas. Men started yelling at us from the street. Most of us ignored him, but my friend Garrett antagonized him, shouting back and charging forward. The man eventually ran away. We thought that was the end of it. Later that night, I noticed our backyard gate was wide open. Against my better judgment, I went to investigate alone. The moment I stepped into the yard, a rope tightened around my neck. I couldn't breathe. I thrashed wildly, convinced I was about to die. We fell to the ground. Somehow, I broke free. Covered in blood, I watched him disappear into the darkness. I ended up in the hospital with stitches and scars that still showed in my graduation photos. The police did very little. I moved away shortly after. But even that wasn't the first time something like this had happened. Back in 7th grade, there was a boy named Sven. He was quiet in a way that made people uncomfortable. He never socialized. He always stood alone near the fence by the woods during recess. On the last day of school, teachers quietly pulled students out of classrooms. The fire alarm went off. Police flooded the campus. Later, we learned that intruders had been let into the school through a side fence. Sven was the one who let them in. After that day, no one ever saw him again. Different people, different places, same feeling. The scariest part isn't what happened. It's what never got answered. Some doors once opened, never fully close. And sometimes the most terrifying thing isn't what you see, but what slips through unnoticed, watching quietly, waiting,